everybody, welcome back to Reborn This Way. I'm Seelin, and I'm sorry I haven't posted in a while. It's been quite an eventful last month for me, and this is the first chance I've really gotten to make a video. It's not going to be too long, because I haven't gotten a chance to really write the video, this podcast / video, so I'm just going to answer a question that someone posed me not too long ago. And basically that question it's a typical question you get when you've gone from living a homosexual lifestyle to being a born-again Christian. And the question was basically, so do you believe everything God says about homosexuality in the Bible? Short answer, yes. And of course, I'm not going to change that answer. And then, the most often question that comes after that is, well, why? The very short answer to that is, it doesn't really matter why. Because, if you have to explain why every single sin in the Bible is considered a sin, you'd be sitting there with that person for a very long time, and that conversation would never end, and it would probably end with that other person getting really mad and then leaving. Which usually happens when I talk about how Jesus saved me from my homosexuality anyways, because, most people make, sex and sexuality the focal point of their lives. Like, that's the main part of their identity. And anything that threatens to take that away, or that tells you to surrender it, you're going to hurt, touch some nerves, and people aren't going to like that. Alcoholics don't like hearing they're alcoholic. Drug addicts don't like hearing they're drug addicts and they have a problem. Homosexuals don't like hearing that they're homosexual and that they have a problem. And regardless of what anyone says, it is a problem. They might not feel it is a problem, but the inner turmoil that's coming inside from living that lifestyle, because they know it's wrong, is what, it destroys people. As I said before, we have the law of God written on our hearts, whether we're saved or not. That's one of the things, because Adam and Eve ate the apple. Not the apple. We know it's not an apple. We know it's a fruit. But they ate from the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. From that moment on, we've had the knowledge of what is good and what is evil written on our hearts, whether we like it or not. So we know what it is. We know what evil is. We know what good is. And we know that our hearts are pretty much inclined to evil all the time. Most of the time when people are doing something we consider good, it's because they have something in it for themselves. They want their image to look good. They want to have this a positive outlook from other people. When people talk about them, they hope that people are talking about them because they're awesome or something. Most people don't like hearing other people talk about them because they're doing something wrong. I know in my case, I don't like being wrong a whole lot, and when I am, I get really defensive about it. And that's one of my things, and it's very hard for me to admit sometimes that I'm wrong. I'm getting better at it, but it's something that I've had to work on, and most people don't want to work on those kind of things. As a Christian, one of the things that I was actually listening to, who was it? I can't remember if it was Allie Beth Stuckey, but it was someone who was talking about what a crucible is and what happens with silver. It's because it's in the Bible. In the Bible, they talk about silver being refined, and so there's a certain process when it comes to refining. And the whole point of refining is that the person who is doing the refining is there every single second, because they're monitoring the impurities rising to the surface, removing the impurities, and then making sure that the metal doesn't get burned to the point where you can't use the silver. And that's what Jesus does with our lives, is that, first off, being a Christian isn't going to be some walk in the woods, finding a flower and sniffing it all the time and happy-go-lucky kind of thing. But being a Christian is you're constantly going through the process of, you're in the furnace, the impurities are, some impurities are rising up, Jesus is removing them, and, he brings something else to the surface, lets you know that it's there, and, removes it. It's all about becoming more and more Christ-like. And the thing about, and it's not just homosexuality, let me iterate that right now, is that even though my ministry is focused towards homosexuality, there's other sins out there, other things that are lifestyles that we do that are wrong, that are part of the crucible process when you're a Christian. Even when you're not, again, we know it's wrong because we've got that knowledge in us. And the thing that usually people don't like hearing is that the thing that they are doing is wrong. It's not good for them, and it's hurting their soul, and it's tearing them apart. We don't want to admit that part. And a lot of people like to go into the details about stuff. It's like that if they can go to the very minutest detail of why something is the way it is, then somehow they can justify it. Or it's kind of like people with science now. We talk about using the scientific theory in order to prove science. But currently one of the scientific understandings of how the world is created is that this comes from Stephen Hawking. I'm not going to quote him, but I've read through it, and I know that he is pretty much determined that the complexity of how the Earth is designed and how the whole universe is designed, basically, and how it formed, is that there is no other logical thing to say that it is from an intelligent design. It's not random. And and of course there are people that think that something randomly happened. If you think about it, they go the whole something comes from nothing argument. Well, where did the nothing come from? Who started the nothing into movement? And when it comes to homosexuality, we want to nitpick and get down to the nitty-gritty, minute details in order to find some sort of validation in it. And usually how that ends up being is that you end up either more miserable than you were, or you do what I did and give it up to Jesus and let him take it. And, go back to the life that he had planned for you and he willed for you, and that's better for you. But people don't want to do that. I mean, that's the biggest issue, is that people do not want to surrender their lifestyles, their sexuality, their identity to someone who actually holds their identity in his hand. I mean, he has who you are. He already knows who you are. Everything you're technically doing outside of his identity in you is making yourself a god in your own life and giving trying to take control of something that you can't control. And people, one of the things I get is like, well, you can't help who you're attracted to. It's like, no, there's a lot of things that attract me. I'm very attracted to really good books. I'm really attracted to certain smells. Certain smells have that attraction, freshly cut grass. I feel like Hermione Granger. Spearmint toothpaste. Those things that they attract, those are chemical reactions that attract us. There's also the visual attraction of things that you look at and you like. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're sexually attracted to them or that sex should be involved. If that were true, then I'm sure that there's a lot of disturbing things that are more disturbing than I've ever seen out there, that people use to justify those attractions or to act upon them. And there's nothing wrong with, I know I've said this before, there's nothing wrong with agreeing that someone looks attractive, they look agreeable, they look, nice. When you add things into that, like, oh, this is what I would do, or this is how I feel on top of that, and let that get in the way, that's where we have our issue. When you choose to act upon those attractions, then that's where the issue of, are you committed to sin? Is it, something that's going to benefit your life as far as it being a child of God? Is it not? If you're not a child of God, it's becoming a barrier between you and him reaching out to you, because we don't, there's no barrier that can stop Jesus from coming at you, from addressing you. We all have that moment. We all have that moment in life where you realize who Jesus is, what his sacrifice was, what he's calling you to be, you the true self that he's calling you to be, and what stops that is yourself. It's your own decision to say, I don't want that. I want to do what I want to do. And I mean, that's. I wish it wasn't so simple as that, because it's kind of, like I said, it's sad. I look at myself first when it comes to this, and I think of how sad my life was at the time when I was totally living outside of Jesus's will, and not giving up my sexuality. Like I was choosing to be miserable over letting homosexuality go. And in hindsight, it's you just think of the foolishness of it. Why would I have let that be the thing that kept me from peace and from the joy of being a Christian, of living a lifestyle that's beneficial to me, and that Jesus had planned for me, that's always been way better than what I thought was good for me. It's just, it's one of those things you kind of kick yourself in the butt for it. I really hope I'm not, it doesn't sound too simplistic, but in reality it is a simplistic thing. It's something that's so simple, yet we complicate. I mean, I've one of the things that we've been doing in my church has been reading through the Bible, and we're trying to do it in a year. I know that our pastor has so far read it, I think, 4 times. There's a way to read it that much. He has that kind of time. I wish I had that kind of time. It would be cool to read it and really start getting in and memorizing it. But back to the reading, one of the things that I've been overtly aware of is how simple God had it for the Israelites. The people look at Leviticus and go, well, this is all so hard. How can everybody keep all these laws? And it's really not that difficult if you put, the love of God first. Then it's really easy to follow the law that he put in place. I mean, you don't think about doing those things. You think about pleasing God. And I think about, in every instance when Christ, or when God showed mercy to the Israelites, when they violated his law, and they kept, leaving their first love, they kept basically prostituting themselves to all these other gods, all these other things that they wanted to do. They were doing it to themselves. We do it to ourselves. We destroy our own lives. Jesus and God, God never wants our lives destroyed. He wants us to come to that loving relationship with him, and where everything, everything is in his hands, where we trust him with all that, where we just do what he says. To obey is better than sacrifice. For Jesus, he obeyed to the point of sacrifice, and he did that so that we didn't have to. I mean, and we couldn't. It's not like, oh, well, he did it so I didn't have to do it. We couldn't even do it. If one sin sets you apart. One sin. And as simple as that is, that one time you disrespected your parents when you were like 4 years old. You already knew that it was wrong, and you still did it. That one sin sets you apart. And, we know at the time that we don't have to do it like that. We didn't have to act like that. We don't have to choose to act like that. And yet we do it anyways. I mean, I'm probably ranting right now, and people are probably going like, she's kind of getting a little bit fiery about it. I'm like, but I want to get fiery about it. We should all be fiery about it. We should all, first off go, what in the world was I thinking? Letting something so stupid get in the way. And I don't want to call homosexuals stupid. I'm calling the sin stupid and myself stupid first. I mean, people aren't stupid. It's just something stupid that gets in the way. And, and one of the things that I've been challenged with has been, am I showing the love that I'm supposed to show as a Christian to other people? And part of that love is telling the truth. And, I don't want fear of people thinking I'm too fiery to stop me from actually saying the truth. And, it's I want to see everybody that I interact with every single day in heaven with me. I may not know you very well. I may not know you at all. And you may not be suffering from the same sin that I suffered from. You might have something else that's getting in the way of you and Jesus. But I want to tell the truth, and I want you to know the truth. And I don't want you separated like we are if we don't have Jesus. And I'll end it with this because I don't want to go too long. We'll turn it all back to Jesus. Jesus has a better identity in store for you than what you think your better identity is. I thought that it was the coolest thing for the longest time that I was homosexual. That, oh, look at me, I'm homosexual. You call it out. I'd be like, oh, yes, but I'm homosexual. I'm a homosexual Christian. I'm a lesbian Christian. That wasn't what Jesus meant for me. And that's not what Jesus means for anybody. He wants you to live the best life that He has for you to live. We have that choice of letting Him have that. And it's really, He, one of the best descriptions is that He has a gift for you, and He offers you a gift. And you can decide not to take it. Basically, it's just something He's offering up until the point that you decide to take the gift and use the gift. Everybody has that hand stretched out to them from Jesus. I mean, He died for everybody. He died for my sins. He died for your sins. He died for this whole world's sin. And He wants to use each and every single one of us, intimately in a relationship with Him to reach other people. If I'm not saying any of what I'm saying, and what I know from what Jesus has done in my life, and keeping it to myself, I am not living the life that Jesus had planned for me. I am not sharing the love that He showed me and offering me that gift. I can't offer that gift to you. I can talk about what that gift is. I can let you know how awesome the gift is, and that the only way that you can experience it too is by accepting that same gift. But it's you who's got to pick whether you're going to accept that gift or not. And I plead with you guys, don't let sexuality get in the way of that gift. People do it with heterosexuality and promiscuous lifestyles, and using the focal point of any relationship being sex, and what their gratification is. Don't let that get in the way. Jesus has something so much more awesome planned in our lives, in your lives, in my life, than sex. That is not the antithesis. I can't speak. That is not the. I can't. Why can't I speak right now? That is not the epitome of what our lives are. Sex. That's. It's something that He designed so that we could be fruitful and multiply and continue spreading the truth of who He is and His love to everybody else. That's not the epitome of what our lives is. Don't let it be the God, the idol, the focus that gets in the way of you letting Jesus be the God of your life. Because there is only one God. And Jesus is His Son. Jesus came and humbled Himself and became like man. Became like one of us. To suffer with us and to die for our sins. To take up our sins on the cross with Him and save us from sin that we can't save ourselves from. And I'll end it with that. I hope I didn't rant too much. The fiery spirit that I have going on right now is it's just something that's been getting more intense, and it kind of got more intense with the month that I've been having as far as with work. And one of the things that I think about is I worry about work, and then I'm like, well, work won't really matter whenever Jesus comes back like that. I mean, that job, I've been putting it in a stressful place in my life. And that's one of the things that I've been coming to realize with reading my Bible and all that. It's like, it hasn't been the idol of my life, but I've been giving it undue attention as far as stress and, my worry. And my fiery spirit has come from just not worrying about it anymore and going, you know what, I'm going to keep displaying who Jesus is in my life, regardless of work or not. And I am going to make sure that I tell the truth to as many people as possible with the sincerest love that I have for people that I meet, especially those in the LGBT community who are holding on to something that is so hollow and superficial and will not save them and has nothing to do with their salvation and does nothing but get in the way of their salvation. So I would like to say I was going to apologize for that, but I'm not, because Jesus and his love is more important, and salvation is more important. Thank you guys for listening. Again, I hope you have a blessed week, and I will try to get another video more structured and less fiery, or at least more structured. We'll go with more structured and maybe as fiery next time. Thank you guys. Love y'all.